Let's start reading in verse 1, and we'll read all 13 verses, okay? Now, this is Solomon speaking. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O prince's daughter. The curves of your thighs are like jewels, the work of the hands of a skillful workman. Your navel is a rounded goblet. It lacks no blended beverage. Your waist is a heap of wheat, set about with lilies. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes like the pools in Heshbon, by the gate of Beth Rabim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, which looks toward Damascus. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel, and the hair of your head is like purple. A king is held captive by your tresses. Boy, I tell you, this guy, he needs to write for Hallmark. I mean, just read that last again. The hair of your head is like purple. A king is held captive by your tresses. There's two ways of looking at that, and we'll consider that in a couple of minutes. How fair and how pleasant you are, O love, with your delights. This stature of yours is like a palm tree, and your breast like its clusters. I said, I will go up to the palm tree. I will take hold of its branches. Let now your breasts be like clusters of the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples, and the roof of your mouth like the best wine. The wine goes down smoothly. This is real quickly. This is Abishag responding. She just can't she can't contain herself anymore. She's bursting forth, and she says, the wine goes down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently the lips of sleepers. By that phrase there in the last part of verse 9, they don't know what that thing is. Your Bible may have an entirely different translation. The Hebrew is not clearly understood. Some of the words are not, depending on how the punctuation is and the vowels are put into the Hebrew consonants, it could be a number of things. So I don't really know what is saying there. The wine goes down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently upon the lips of sleepers. Some think, well, he drinks down that wine. It goes down smoothly, gently over his lips or over his teeth. It just goes down. Verse 10, I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grape blossoms are open and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you this is still her talking. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our gates are pleasant fruits, all manner, new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved. What's going on here? Well, remember what happened in chapter 6, 5, and 6? They had a what? A spat. A married spat, probably on the honeymoon, or certainly after the honeymoon, and he came home and he knocked, and she wouldn't get out of bed. She had locked him out. She had locked him. I remember a John Wayne movie one time, McClintock, 1963, and his wife, Maureen O'Hara, had locked the door. He couldn't get in, and John Wayne, he just kicked that thing open. And that's the idea, but Solomon didn't do that. He was a gentleman, unlike the Duke. And she locked the door, and so then she changed her mind. Remember, and she got up and she rushed to the door, and what happened? He gone. He said, okay, he just moseyed on down the trail, his heart broken. And so chapter 7 is they're getting back together. They're still reconciling. And so as we look at chapter 7 and the things that are saying, verses 1 through 9, I've called the reaffirmation of love, because what we find here was said earlier in the book. You can find earlier chapters where he had said the same thing to her, had described her beauty in great detail. In chapter 7, he talked about the seven features about her. In this chapter, he doesn't say 7, he goes to 10. He adds 3 more about her. He's really trying to get on and stay on the right side of the equation here. So as I look at this chapter, I call it, and you'll get these all next week. By God's, I'll have all these notebooks done next week, and I'll bring them with me. If I can't get them done by next Thursday, I'll have them by the following Sunday. But I'll get these notebooks. You'll have everything here. And this chapter I've called the normal Christian marriage. Now, somebody tell me, what is normal? What does the word normal mean in general? Like it should be. I mean, you go home, you get your coffee cup, it's gotten cold, you put it in the microwave, and you put 30 seconds or whatever, and you expect normal after so many seconds, the coffee is hot. Now, for Susie and me, with Krispy Kreme donuts, we got it down to a science. If you got a Krispy Kreme donut and it's cold and stale, I don't care if it's 2 days old, you put it in that microwave for how many seconds, honey? 9 seconds. And that Krispy Kreme is just like it came off the hot thing at the restaurant, you see. So, in your car, you're going down the car in the road in the car, and it starts to rain, and you turn on your what? Wipers. If the wipers come on, you say they're working normally. If you cut on the wipers and the radio starts to blare, you would say that's not normal. Okay, so the normal Christian marriage, this is what they're describing. There is a reaffirmation of love. There is a ripening of love. There's a maturing of the love. Sometimes it takes decades for this to happen. And so this is what we're talking about in chapter 7 as I look at it, as I've read it. So let's just back up now and look at verses 1 and following. He's talking to her. They're getting back together. She's forgiving him for his little tantrum. And so he says, how beautiful are your feet in sandals, O princess daughter. And he talks about her thighs or her legs. He talks about her navel, her waist. It's interesting. Your waist is like a heap of wheat. What would that indicate, a heap of wheat? No. You've seen with the pilgrims, okay, when they got a stack of wheat, they get the wheat and they tie a rope around it, and there you go. Pat's got it. It's like this. You got and it's like, so her waist is very narrow. I mean, she flares up here like she should, and she flares out there like she. The waist is kind of like, boy, I'm really gonna be sorry that this is on tape. You can look it up online. But it's kind of like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind when Mammy was tightening up that thing. And you think, where is her stomach and her intestines? I mean, what happens to them when it's so narrow? And that's all he's saying. Your waist is like a heap of wheat. It's very narrow, set about with lilies. So apparently, her waist, she's got flowers there. She's just beautiful. And then he goes back to her breast. We're not spending time there. He talked about that in chapter 7 as well, or chapter 4. Talks about her figure. Her neck is like an ivory tower. Her eyes are like the pools of Heshbon. So I haven't been to Heshbon. Been to other places in Israel, but I don't guess it really matters where it is. But the pools, not a lake, not a pool. It's still, right? And it shimmers. And he looks into they're blue or whatever, and it just kind of shimmers, as the air flows over it. And he's saying your eyes are like the pools of Heshbon by the gates of Beth Rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon. Now, that would probably be insulting today. To say, when I see you laying there and I see that nose is like a tower, I can run a flag up that thing. I don't think that's what he's talking about. Apparently, noses in this part of time was very prominent, and that's why sometimes women would put a what through their nose? A ring or a bone, remember? Remember Ahab the Arab, and Patina, what was the woman had a bone in her nose and rings in her nose? How was that, honey? Patima. Yeah, well, This is all in the Middle East here, so your nose looks like a tower. Apparently noses were prominent in those days, and the more prominent, the better. So I guess Jimmy Durrani would have been really great there. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. And I really love it. The hair of your head is like purple. A king is held captive by your tresses. And I want to spend there for a minute. What do you think he means when he says you're a king is held captive by your tresses? What are the tresses? Yeah, long, right? Flowing, maybe thick, it's not stringy. How would a king be held captive by the tresses? There's two ways I'm thinking of. Nobody wants to take a guess? Okay, yeah, that's the second thing I was saying. Yeah, her hair is so strong, so long, a king she could tie him up. She could really bind his hands or whatever and, tie around his neck and hold him close or whatever. But a king is held captive by your tresses. It's that strong. Or to be held captive, your attention. Admiration. Yeah. His attention. He's held captive by. His attention is captivated by her beauty. He looks at her hair. He looks at that nose. He looks at that neck, that waist, the breast, the feet, the legs. He's just enamored with her, and he's just held. His attention is arrested by her. That's what he's saying here. He is mesmerized by this beautiful woman who happens to be his what? Wife. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I don't have to because I know there's not a woman in the world doesn't want to hear her husband talk to her about that in that way. That's just human nature. And so today, Susan and I had a quite frank discussion this morning, and I'm not going to say anything, honey, but she's like this. We had a frank, do I talk to you? Do I talk to you like this? Do I affirm you with my words and my attention and all? Because I want her to feel secure. I want her to feel special. Thank you. And if I don't do it, I don't want somebody else to do it, right? So this is important. That's why this is part of a normal Christian marriage, a normal biblical marriage, where the husband admires and appreciates his wife's features, and he tells her so. And what does that do? What do you think this did to Abishag after they had a little tiff? First of all, do you think he was being honest? He really felt this way? Or was he just simply trying to butter her up? I think he really felt this way. This kind of language really came from inside. And plus, it's not the first time he's talked to her about this. I guess the first time he did it, he got, it hit the mark. Well, I did. It worked the first time. I'll try the second. But I'll add three more little things here, which he did. Verse 6, he says, "How fair and how pleasant you are, O love, with your delights. The stature of yours is like a palm tree." What does that mean? She's tall. She's not, really short. She's tall. And he's probably tall. I mean, King Solomon was known for a manly man. So she's tall. Maybe not as tall as he is, but he didn't have to pat her on the head. So he appreciates her stature. And then he goes back to her feminine attributes. Thank you. We're not going to replace all that. And he admires that. And we talked the first time he talked about this. It is a mystery why God put in the heart of man the appreciation for that. I guess the same way that a woman sometimes appreciates a man's biceps, his muscular, and that six-pack ab that all of us want, few of us get. It's a divine mystery how God has stirred within each opposite sex, some feature of the other. It's an amazing thing. It's a supernatural thing that we ought to appreciate and not denigrate. Certainly not mistreat, abuse, or take in a wrong way. So he even mentions her breath. Her breath is like apples. And the roof of him like the best wine. So, he went to kiss her, and he was not repelled by her breath, which is always a good thing. And, of course, then she couldn't contain herself anymore. Yeah, it's like the best wine. That wine goes down smoothly, doesn't it, honey? Right over your teeth, and his desire. And in verse 10, she says, I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. His desire, she says that 3 times in the book. Go back to chapter 2, verse 16, and let's see the first time she said it. 2:16. She said, my beloved is mine. Now, who's the beloved? Solomon. So she's saying, my husband is mine, and I am his. He feeds his flock among the lilies. So here she is declaring that there's a security there in their relationship. There is a sense of possessiveness, an element of possessiveness that gives her security. Does not make her feel taken for granted at all. Doesn't threaten her sense of independence, her sense of her feminine independence at all. She appreciates and values the fact that I'm his and he's mine. We belong to each other. In fact, he feeds his flock among the lilies. He's over there, and he's over here taking care of his royal business, the royal flock, the shepherd king here. But he's mine, and I'm his. And then she says in chapter 6, verse 3, she's speaking again, and she says, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feeds his flock among the lilies. Now, back to chapter 2, verse 16, she says, my beloved is mine, I am his. Chapter 6, she says, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. She kind of switches around a little bit, but it's still saying that we belong to one another, as we would say. He feeds his flock among the lilies. She recognizes that there's an element of possessiveness that gives her security and a sense of submission to one another. She learned to give herself to him, regardless of how she felt. Never be indifferent to the needs of your spouse, neither was she towards him. And then in chapter 7, we just saw, verse 10, she said, I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. A little bit. She didn't say that in the first 2. She said, I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. This indicates to me, as I was looking at these, trying to parse these 3 verses in chapters 2, 6, and 7, it seems to give a little bit of stability. The first 2, I'm his, he's mine, I'm his. He's out here, taking care of the sheep. But I know there's a sense of security and submission in our relationship. And now she says, I am my beloved's, and his desires, I know he wants me. I'm not an intrusion. I'm not a distraction. I'm not an embarrassment. I'm not someone who he's going to avoid. He's not going to see my name come up on his cell phone. He's not going to answer it. He's not going to hear me coming down the driveway, and he's going to go jump in the shower or go in the backyard, start the lawnmower. His desires for me, and this is not necessarily limited to the sexual desire, but his overall desire that when she sees him. Did I tell you about my friend in South Carolina? When I was pastoring 40-something years ago down there, a young man, a little bit older than me, but not much, and he worked in the auto parts. I tell you this story. He worked in the auto parts, kind of like, AutoZone, something like that. But I went to see him one day. I used to go visit people where they work. See, very few of y'all work. I come to your house, but back when I was a pastor, I went right to their work, and I'd go in and see them, except if they were a dentist, then I wouldn't go in. But I went to see him one time, and he was on the phone, and he got off, and he was talking, and the phone went off. And no cell phones now. It's a telephone, but it did have caller ID. Y'all remember caller ID on telephones on the desk? He looked down, And he put his hand on the receiver. He said, "It's Linda." That's his wife. And he said to me as the phone was ringing, he said, we've been married 12, 13 years. And my heart, I still get flutters when I know she's calling me. And he took the call, and I remember thinking, I'll never forget, that is magnificent that after all those years and 2 children, when he saw her number, he got flutters in his stomach. I think that's what she's saying here. I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. There's a stability there, reaffirmation of her love and her security. Does not feel taken for granted. He makes her feel like she is number one, which she was. By the way, his desires toward me, I don't think it's limited strictly to the sexual desire, but I think certainly it includes the sexual desire. I mean, every man with his wife, sometimes all they want is a dinner out. Sometimes they just want to walk in the park. Sometimes they walk around the block. I mean, sometimes they just want to go to a movie together. Just being together is a good sign of a healthy marriage. I don't care if you're in your 20s or in your 80s. It's a good thing. And his desires toward her, and that gave her great, great security in the relationship in spite of the fact they were both young people. Young people. All right, now that brings us to chapter 7, verse 11 and following. We're going to wrap it up in chapter 8, verse 4. And then next we will finish chapter 8, verse 4, verse 5 through the rest of the chapter. But chapter 7, 11 through 8, 4 is the context. Remember, these chapter divisions were added years later. They're not inspired. The chapter 8, the number's not inspired where these are. Editors added that in there later. They didn't always put them in the right place. So she says in verse 11, she's still talking. "Come, my beloved. Come on, Solomon. Come on, honey. Let's go forth to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grape blossoms are open and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give off a fragrance." That's like saying the rose bushes really smell good. The cherry petals smell great. The strawberry patches have a great fragrance. And at our gates are pleasant fruits, all manner new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved. You know what she's wanting? She wants to get out of Dodge. Can you imagine being the wife of the king? You kind of like being the wife of the president. You don't have any time to yourself. I mean, you get up in the morning, there's the chief of staff. There's the press secretary. There's the defense secretary, head of the FBI, and there you are in your bathrobe. And they're all gathered around with clipboards and files and phone calls and messages for the president and trying to give him information and putting up charts and maps and all this stuff and getting your laptops out, At some point, Ivana, whatever her name is, wants to get out of D.C., and I think Abishag wants to get out of Jerusalem. Let's just go. Let's go. Let's get up. Let's go to the field, to the villages. Let's get up early to the vineyard, see if the vine is budded. She wants to smell the grape blossoms, the pomegranates. And by the way, she says, we get up there, I'll give you my love. Let's have a second honeymoon. Let's get away from it all. And I think sometimes husbands and wives do need to get away by themselves. They just need to get, if you're younger, and none of us are in this category, if you are, God bless you. But if we got kids at home, we want to get a babysitter, don't we? We want to call grandma and granddaddy or call somebody and say, would you watch the kids for a couple of days? We want to get out of town for a couple of days. That's very normal. And that's one of the blessings of an empty nest, because once the kids are up and grown, that's great. You can just get away. Maybe, if your bank account allows you, take a couple days to go to the O. Henry. I mean, I know you got a Hampton Inn budget, or in our case, a Red Roof Inn budget, but sometimes it's nice to go to the O. Henry, or what's the other one up there? What's it? Proximity. Yeah. I like O. Henry because when we were kids, we knew it was when it was downtown. We remember the original O. Henry. So that's what she's saying. Let's get up. Let's go. We need to get away by ourselves occasionally and rekindle our love for one a second honeymoon. And then in she got for chapters 11 through 13 and down to chapter 8. You're going to love this. I had to work on this a while. Oh, that you were like my brother. Now, she didn't say, I wish you were my brother. She said, I wish you were like my brother, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I should find you outside, that is, if I should find you at the post office, or at Harris Teeter, or in a church parking lot, or Walmart, if I could find you outside in public, I would kiss you and would not be despised. You know what she's wanting? She's wanting some innocent, honest, public displays of affection. She wants some PDAs. But if she went up to the king, you can't do that to the king because he's the king. But if it was her brother, that would be acceptable because brothers and sisters are allowed to show affection to one another. You see, I took my sister and I spent part of the day together for my birthday yesterday. It's something we do. Her birthday, I pick her up. Sometimes Cynthia, Susie, and Chris will go, and other times Susie and Chris are not interested in the brother-sister stuff, and so they'll do something else, but I'll pick up my kid sister, and we'll go have, yesterday we went to Danville, and we sat there, and for 2.5 hours at this little State Line diner in Danville, on the south side of Danville. You can find it's pretty nice. Remind me a lot of Spring Valley, but a lot smaller. But we went in there, and we sat there, and we had pictures and old letters. We just drank coffee and ate breakfast, and when I picked her up, I hugged her. When I took her back, I hugged her. Didn't worry anything what people thought. That's my baby sister, right? I remember changing her diapers. Powder flying everywhere. It was amazing. So that's what she's saying here. She's saying, I wish you were like my brother, who nursed my mother. If I could find you outside, we could have a little PDA, public display of affection. See, and then she says, verse 2, I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother, she who used to instruct me. I would cause you to drink of spiced wine, of the juice of my pomegranate. She said, if you were like my brother, then I could hold hands in public and no one would think that I'm a woman of ill repute because that's just her brother. And we could have affection, hold hands, and we could go home to Mama's house, and bring you in there. My mom who taught me the ABCs, and I would cause you to drink of spiced wine. She's looking for special attention that only a husband can give to the wife. And she was wanting that special attention from her husband. And the wife sometimes needs a little extra privacy with her husband. And a wife sometimes needs a public assurance of love for her husband. I mean, you think about it, you walk outside, Susie and I, we walk around a lot, we hold hands. Walmart. Sometimes just walking down to the FLC, we'll just hold hands. It's important. There's nothing childish about it. There's nothing wrong about that, but to make her feel special, and I want people to know that I belong to her. Believe me, I want everyone to know that I belong to Susie, and I want them to know she belongs to me. So we hold hands. I might put my arm around her occasionally. We don't do much kissing around here because that's just not appropriate, but we hold hands. We go out in public, and I imagine some of y'all do the same thing. And no matter how old you get, there's nothing wrong with that. She needs that. She needs that public assurance. And Abishag was wishing Solomon was like her brother so she could enjoy some of this stuff without people thinking harshly toward her. Now it's interesting, as we go look in chapter chapter 8, go down to verse 3 and 4. We've seen this before earlier on. His left hand is under my head. Now picture that, okay? His left hand is under her head, right? Get the picture? With that nose of ivory coming up, And then his right hand, what's his right hand doing? Embracing her. So he has her in a loving embrace that is encouraging, that's affectionate, that is securing for her. And then look at verse 4. I charge you. What is charge? When she says, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, what is she saying? What does it mean by I charge you? Yeah. It's like we charge our children. I'm going to tell you, don't you cross that street. Don't you do this. I remember my mother, when I was 8 years old, we lived off of Bessemer. I'll never forget, my sister and I talked about it yesterday. I was 8 years old, came into the house. Mama, we lived at Castlewood Drive, some old string of post-war housing. It's housing now for A&T College. But anyway, Mama was sweeping, and she had a pile of dirt. And I came walking, and she had a handful of books she had taken off the shelf to dust under. She had these books, and it's like she said, don't step in that pile of trash. I was 8 years old. What do you think I did? I stepped in it and I kicked it, and it went everywhere. And she said, I told you, Mother, when Mama yelled, she gritted her teeth. I told you this. And she took those books and she threw them at me. And everyone hit me like a bunch of bullets. Pop, 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 pop. So Mama was upset with me. I charge you, she says. It's almost like a command, a strong assessment, a strong piece of advice. Do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. Now we saw that two other times in the scriptures here. Go back to chapter 2, verse 7. Just a couple of pages. Chapter 2, verse 7. She said, I charge you, same language, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. And then in chapter 3, verse 5, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles of the does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Now, I jumped over those two earlier on because I wanted to save it for this chapter because she says it a third time. Now, we're looking at the New King James. I didn't take time to look at other translations. But when it says, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases, it's better translated, do not arouse sexual feelings until it's proper. That's what it's talking about. If you got a modern translation, it's either translated something near to that or the commentary at the bottom will say that. She's simply saying, don't awake, don't arouse, don't stir up these sexual feelings until the proper time. Now, is it proper when teenagers are 14 or 15 or 16 in the back of their daddy's car, is that a proper time to arouse those kind of feelings? Is it a proper time when you're 18 or 19 years old and those feelings are stirred up? So when is the proper time for those feelings to be stirred up? When you're married. Thank you. When you're married. That's the right time. And so she's advising these young girls, these bridesmaids, women of the palace. We don't know who these daughters are. And she's just saying, look, be careful. Don't stir up these passions until the proper time. Be careful. That's why, excuse me, when you are young, it's better to group date. You know, when I was in Bible college, we had rules there. Oh, man. I went to Columbia Bible College, CBC, Christian Boot Camp. That's what we called it. You know, at CBC, you could not hold hands with your girlfriend if you were engaged with the ring on her finger, which, by the way, you had to get permission from the Dean of Student Affairs and her parents to do that. But if you do that, you couldn't hold hands. You couldn't. If they caught you kissing, you'd be kicked off. It was serious business. They had what they called a 6-inch rule. You couldn't get any closer than 6 inches. We used to do this. And the only time you could touch that girl, if it was raining, and guess where you get to touch her? On her left elbow. While you held the umbrella, you could hold her by, left foot, so she wouldn't slip and fall. Those were the rules at CBC, Christian Boot Camp. Sometimes called Charlie Brown Club, but it was still Columbia Bible College, what we called it. But it was, and we looked at, and we couldn't single date. You had a double date. I mean, not many had cars their freshman year, but I had a '62 Volkswagen, and I drove that thing down, and I couldn't pull around and blow the horn for her to come out and get in my car. No, we had to double date. Had to get another guy, and he'd be in the front seat with me, and the girls get in the back seat in that Volkswagen. And then we go, Volkswagen, we'd have our date, you see. So it was and you say, why did they do that? To protect us. Because they knew at 18, 19, 20 that, especially the culture back then, much like it is today, remember that's not right after free love in the late 60s, free love, the danger of sexual temptation was too strong or too weak. The flesh is weak. Spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So they just, no single date. He had to do group dating and all. That was to protect us. And so she's simply saying, don't awaken these feelings until the proper time. The proper time is when you're old enough and you're married. So that when the feelings are aroused, you're married and you have the divine right to enjoy those feelings that God has built into us. So that's what she's saying in chapter 8, verse 4. And for the third time, we're going to stop there because I want to pick it in verse 5 next week, and we will finish. There's not many verses yet. We're going to finish that, and we might do a little review of the whole book next week. Just kind of when hopefully I'll have the notebooks done. I can pass them out. So we're a little bit early. We've been taking questions when allowed. So if you got a question, nothing is off limits because I'm going to ask Perry to cut off the mic, cut off the recording. Thank you, Brother Perry. So, all right, any questions on this, on anything?